Okay, so now we continue talking about Android Studio. We looked at the general editor, general navigation, and some shortcuts. Next thing is the design editor, which is more specific to Android, of course. Um, design editor is a feature-rich uh, editor for specifically for building UIs for different devices and screen types for Android apps. It's being greatly improved over time, and more features are still being added continuously. You'd find in almost every Android Studio update, there is some upgrade to the design editor. Okay. So design editor looks like this. You'll get to this view when you open one of the layout XML files, for example, activity underscore main.xml in your greetings app. And then, well, I have hidden the project tool window. That's why you'll see it like this. After hiding the Android project tool window, um, you'll find a wall in the middle, which will have a component tree and palette as buttons. You open them to get this part, and then there will be a button for tool window on the right side, which says attributes. You open it to get this part. Um, and then, here in this blue button, you can go click and select a design to get it look like this. But even if it's not the same, that shouldn't be a big problem. Um, the key point here is uh, to look at what you all get to see in a design editor and how you can navigate. Okay, so assuming you are able to get to this stage, let's take a look at some of the parts of the screen or the tools here that we see. Okay, so first of all, you have a code or a design or a split option available here. We have chosen split. Code will simply be your XML file that you see on the left. Design will simply be this design preview of a device screen that you see over here. And split means you can see both. Okay. Yeah, the code view is over here. It's an XML file. We'll talk about what goes in there, how it represents what you see in another video pretty soon. Then this is your design view, where you can actually see the widgets like text boxes and buttons placed on the screen. And this gives you a good preview of how it's going to show up on an actual device. Here you have a palette, which is um, a menu of commonly used widgets, which you can drag and drop on the design part directly. So without writing code. And over here, you have a component tree, which is a hierarchical structure of all the components you have on your view right now. So your code view, that's the left window here. The design view, that's this device-like preview right now over here, and your component tree. They are different ways of looking at the same information. For example, here on component tree, you see a constraint layout and its child a text view. If you look at the XML file here, and don't worry about understanding everything inside that XML file right now, but you'll see at the top level there is a Android X blah 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 constraint layout, and inside that there is a text view. And on the preview over here, you'll see a rectangle, which is basically the constraint layout, and inside that a text view. Now that text view in all three places here has a string hello Swaroop, because it should be hello your name, because that's how you modified it on your first project or assignment, right? So something to keep in mind, they are reflections of each other. Next over here, you have an attributes window. Attributes are things that modify a specific widget. So, for example, we can make this. So this text view is right at the center, but we can make it go up or down or closer to the left side or right side by making changes to certain values in this attribute window, or change the font color, etc. Inside the design view, there are certain other interesting things. So the blue button here is to toggle between design or blueprint or both. A blueprint will look like, well, a blueprint where it shows how exactly the widgets are laid out. Um, and the design is this particular preview. So when we actually start manipulating, we'll take a deeper look at both of these. The button next to that is for orientation. All of these are drop downs, by the way. So you can click on this and then it will show you portrait and landscape and such, and how it will look on those different orientations. Next to that is the device. So this is a pixel device. It tells you what's the ratio, or rather shows you what's the ratio of height to width is. If you have another device configured, it will show how that device will look like, and then how your widgets show up on that, and so on. Next to that is the API. Certain widgets are not available in certain APIs, or they will look different, and so on. So it's a good idea to preview all of them before actually releasing the app. Again, something we'll talk about in details later. Yeah, and here is a pane for resizing the preview. As you can see, there are plus and minus buttons, and there are also zoom and size buttons over here. So some quick navigation points on the design layout. And finally, there is this warnings and errors button. So if you see this yellow or orange triangle with an exclamation, it means there are warnings or errors in your file. Here, the string hello Swaroop produces a warning because Android wants you to create a string not like right here, but in a different way. That's something we'll talk about in the next lecture very soon, but that's the only warning here. Don't worry about it at this point. Finally, we'll talk about integration of a version control system in Android Studio. Very straightforward. You go to the VCS menu and um, enable version control integration. It shows a dialog box like this. Here you can select Git, Mercury, or other such control systems that are available on your device, on your machine, and clicking OK creates a local repository. Now, I'll leave it to you to figure out how to set up a remote repository, for example, say on GitHub, and how to link it with your project. Not terribly difficult, especially if you have some background with Git and GitHub. Anyway, after that, I would recommend you do an initial commit of your project. Go to the VCS view, Command 9 or Alt 9 on your machine. Select all the files that have changed. Well, it's an initial commit, so everything is new. And then click the commit button, and you'll see a dialog box like this, where you can write initial commit, give the author name if required, uh, choose any of these options if you want, and then click commit. This is again, the blue button here is a drop down. It can be commit or commit and push. In the drop down, you can find that button. So feel free to use the one that you feel is appropriate. Yeah. Yeah, and we talked a little bit about remote repo configuration, which I'm going to leave to you guys. All right. So that's largely about the very basics of Android Studio. As you can imagine, it's a real industry strength software. So there are so many features we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg proverbially. So make sure you understand some of these things and start practicing. And the mastery will only come with practice, and there's always something new to learn every time you are using it. Okay. All right, so we'll wrap up our discussion on the Android Studio IDE over here. And next, we'll start looking inside an app. Thank you.